And can you train the CNS to fire faster? I mean, this is a question coming from the audience.
It's one of my favorite topics, especially now. I would think that's a big hell yeah. And that is if you take one thing from this podcast, it's like, yes, you can improve the CNS. And when you improve the CNS, you improve every type of movement.
Yeah.
That the two stories that Kula told, where he speed trained a swim group on land, and they were horrible, and they all got not fast, but they improved in incredible ways.
Yeah.
They were improving like 2 or 3 miles an hour, and then they go out and they break 48 swim records.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
movement is movement. And if you improve the CNS, and I need to say this, what is the most extreme movement that the human body can do?
Sprinting
at full speed.
Yeah.
So that's how you improve the CNS. It will improve. It'll grow like a tree. So you have to be super patient, play the long game 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years, all that kind of stuff. But you and I both know that in 8 to 10 weeks, you can improve an entire group by over 1 mile per hour.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It changes the athlete. And then one of my favorite things, remember he talked about that elite girl golfer?
Yeah, golfers. Yeah.
That he sprint trained.
Yeah.
And her club speed improved by 7 miles an hour.
100%.
It's like you and I are looking at each other like, hell yeah. Now we have stories to tell. And then one more crazy story. Listen to a podcast of Boo Schexnayder like 8 years ago, training a volleyball group by sprinting.
Yeah. I was going to mention volleyballs. Yeah. 100%.
Nobody sprints in volleyball. Nobody runs. You take 1 or 2 steps. And so it's totally counterintuitive to sprint a volleyball player. But you and I both know that an improved CNS, a CNS that fires faster, will allow a person to take 1 step faster.
Yeah.
It will allow a person to jump faster and higher. And so you're training the CNS. I wish we would stop talking about sprint training for other sports and just talk about CNS training.
100%. It's like weight room training is one end of the spectrum. So if I lift a max squat, that's the left end of the spectrum. Sprinting is the far right end. You have to surf the curve, but I would say most of what we need to do is produce force fast. So training to produce force is slow can be a training method, and it can have residual effects, but it's, in my opinion, it's 2 to 3 degrees away from the actual task. So if my task is moving fast, producing forces fast, I need to be on that right end of the spectrum, playing around over there, especially for youth athletes, because a lot of the limiting factors for them is their ability to produce forces fast enough to be fast.
Yes. I think that's incredibly important. And then you throw in what takes more time, what takes more time and energy, the weight room or speed training. The weight room takes 90% or 10 times more, because that sprint workout I had yesterday was 60 seconds of work, and none of my guys were tired when they left. So they can still lift, but the ignoring sprinting it just blows my mind. And as you and I both know, there are Division I football programs that ignore sprinting.
We can go probably 3 more hours on the Division I football side of things. But at the same time, I'm glad they don't, because it makes me look like a genius in that space, because it's simple. It gives me a job. So like, what about cross country? Should they sprint?
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
This is something that, when you're involved with thinking like this for the number of hours a day that I do it, I have come to the conclusion that, matter of fact, this was the name of my TFC presentation, let the sport train the sport.
Yeah.
Because cross country does not create better athletes. It creates better cross country kids. But my question is, would you rather have a good athlete or a poor athlete in cross country? And I think we all want good athletes in every sport, whether it's golf, swimming, cross country, lacrosse, football, whatever. So now we have to define athlete. If I ask I consult with a lot of lacrosse programs, big time D1. One of them's in the Final Four last year. Princeton feeds the Tigers. And if I say, who are you looking for? Who are the players you recruit? They always say the same thing. Good lacrosse players, good at the game, who are fast, explosive.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Good lacrosse, a soccer coach. Who do you recruit? Good soccer players that are fast and explosive. Football players, good football coaches, good football players who are fast and explosive. Obviously, there's a size requirement too.
So it's mind-blowing that in the development pathway, sprinting isn't one of the pillars. Like, I was talking to a soccer club the other day, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're focused on technical side of things." I'm like, "Well, show me the 3 athletes that went to college. Then tell me about them. Oh, they're fast. I'm like, okay, so the fast guys will rise to the top, but why not make the other players at that level? So are you truly developing them, or is their skill set that's technical? They can't even play with that skill set because they're not fast enough."
That's right. And a soccer coach argued the other day that all speed training should be done with a ball. Well, that means that girl that's running 16 miles an hour is not fast enough, is running at 10 miles an hour with a ball.
Right.
And that does not change the CNS. Makes her slower.
It definitely trains them slower. Slower.
So that cross-country team, what I would suggest is basically my pillars. Sprint fast, lift heavy, jump high and far, and bounce. Those are my 4 pillars of athleticism. And they say, well, none of those things happen in the cross-country. I go, I know. That's why they need it away from cross-country.
100%. Like, do you power clean on the cross-country field? Like, no. Do you squat?
No.
Like, but they do those. I mean, I know cross-country programs out there. Like, by now, a lot of them have weight room programs. And they argue with me. And I say, well, do you throw a med ball and then race? Well, no. So what do you mean? You're developing qualities that will transfer and allow you to produce forces faster over a longer period of time.
And it's not just cross, Les. Think about football. Football coaches, this is a mind blower. If I talk to the entire staff at Northwestern, I would say, do you guys realize that football does not create better athletes?
There's only one sport that does.
It actually creates, it's one of them, football and basketball somewhat creates better athletes. But I would argue that there's too much left on the table.
Yeah.
That my focus is this, that your entire focus away from football needs to be creating better athletes. But instead, what is it? It is hard work in the weight room, grueling hard work in the weight room, and then conditioning. I talked to a kid that was a D1 guy. He has a chance to, get an NFL invite this year. And I said, Tyler, have you lost any speed? He said, Coach, I'm sure I have, but I don't know. Because I said, you never get timed? He goes, no. I go, what do they want out of you in the off season? Said, I think they want to make my thighs bigger. And I'm like, oh my God. And this kid is successful. This kid is a successful running back. But I guarantee this kid that was running solid 4.48 for me in high school would run 4.68 right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get guys that come in and say, oh, I'm running 4.4 or 4.5. I'm like, okay, why? Well, I ran that in high school. You test them and they run 4.7 post-college. I'm like, okay, so what went on? And like, I showed you what we did with Arizona. Like, guys got faster in season and it wasn't anything crazy. Like, it was very simple stuff. And you look at what some of these guys did and they became very, very, very good at running sub-maximally over and over and over again. They did not get better at accelerating or decelerating or running at top speed. They did the things that they thought were they listened to the coach. They bought in. They were soldiers, and they come out a worse athlete. And it's an epidemic because if you look at the Nike opening times from high school versus combine times, It's very, very, very rare that the combine time is significantly better than their high school time. And it's been 4 years. And you could argue on the timing, but let's just, if it was a timing issue, you would see like massive gaps. But you actually see like, oh, we ran a 4.7 in high school, we ran a 4.65 in, after college. Like, you're telling me in 4 years you developed 0.05, or sometimes it's worse. Like, a lot of times I look at that stuff. Like, I look at their junior day times, look at their high school times, and then I look at the athlete and I'm like, you're a shell of this. Like, you don't have, like, I have a guy now that ran 10.3 in high school as a sophomore. And if you were to ask him, he would tell you he can't run sub 10.8 anymore. Like, nowhere near that.
Nowhere near it. And I think there was a troll on the internet that was actually, you have a big time speed guy. And he's like, high school coaches need to stop posting that their athletes can run 23 miles an hour. NFL guys hardly ever hit 22. I'm like, well, first of all, that's on soft surface. They're wearing 12 pounds of pads and they're tired. And also, that guy, whoever you're talking about in the NFL, was faster at a younger age.
I got tons of kids that run 23 miles per hour in high school.
Tons.
I have more high school kids running 23 than I do NFL. That is my NFL group can, if they run 23, it is so like hard on them because of everything else that they've done. My high school kids, I can build them up to 23 once a week. I got a kid that came at 6 o'clock this morning that's hitting 23 consistently.
Here's a question. I love questions. I already know the answer. Who is at more danger of risk running 23 miles an hour? Somebody training for the combine who's 22 years old, or a 17-year-old?
Combine. Much harder, much riskier. I mean, I literally have to do so much to get them ready to run that fast. It's shocking to them that, like, they run full speed, and we haven't run full speed since high school. And that's think about that, where I have a 22, 23-year-old athlete telling me, like, they thought they were running full speed, but then we actually go and we run full speed and you rest for an entire rest period. And then you do it again a couple times and then you cut the session. Like, that's it. I'm like, yeah. And then the next day they're like, I haven't been tired like this in a long time. And it's like, well, we did hardly any, but they're like, it's a nervous system fatigue. And then they build into it and then they can handle more. And then all of a sudden they feel fresh, but it's so shocking to them. Whereas my high school kids, like, I can go, like, my kid ran 23 on Monday, came back, it's Wednesday. We did our second session. On Friday, we'll have our third session. And each of those sessions will hit within 95% of his speed and be fine.